You think New York was always neon lights and skyscrapers? Nah. Before cars, before subways, before smartphones, this city ran on people hustling on the streets. These photos? They show how New York City actually survived in the late 1800s. This kid standing in muddy streets with a bicycle? That's a cycle messenger, the original delivery app. No engines, no maps, no safety net. Just steel wheels and speed. Before emails and DMs, this guy was the message. A few blocks down, you'd spot a man by an iron fence. A basket on the ground. That's a shoestring peddler. Sounds small until your laces snap midday. He wasn't selling fashion. He was selling a quick save. Then comes the sponge peddler hauling his whole shop on his shoulders. Those sponges? They cleaned homes, shops, offices. No plastic, no replacements. And if he didn't sell today, he didn't eat tonight. Under rattling train tracks, sparks flying, that's a knife grinder. Foot-powered grindstone, steady hands. One slip and it's blood, not sparks. Before factories, this is how the city stayed sharp literally. Look closer, that man in white with a broom? He's a street sweeper. Before machines, he cleaned horse manure, trash, and mud, so the city could keep moving. New York didn't stay clean by accident, it stayed clean by sweat. Winter hits. Snow everywhere. No plows, no salt trucks. Just men with shovel snow removers, digging paths so life wouldn't stop. Cold hands, frozen boots, zero mercy. Miss a day, miss a meal. Near the docks, a man stacked with straps, that's a suspenders peddler. Belts weren't common. Workers needed their pants to stay up. Function over style. This wasn't fashion. This was survival gear. Then the music starts. A man cranking a heavy organ. A woman collecting coins. They're organ grinders, the street soundtrack of old New York. Before radios, before playlists, music was hand-cranked and paid for in pennies. And there a kid with newspapers under his arm. The newspaper boy. Yelling headlines about wars and disasters, while still being a child. No childhood pause button. Just hustle. The grown man newspaper vendor. Quiet, strategic. Watching foot traffic like a pro. He knows which headline sells fear, which sells hope. Before notifications, news had weight and it was sold face to face. Before vaccines existed, polio terrified families across the world. In the 1950s, children whose lungs were paralyzed lay trapped inside massive iron machines called iron lungs. These mechanical respirators kept them alive, day and night, becoming haunting symbols of a time when medicine was still struggling to catch up with disease. In 1865, a single man's appearance quietly reshaped language itself. A Civil War-era general wore thick facial whiskers connected to his mustache, leaving his chin clean. That distinctive style became so famous that it gave birth to a new word still used today. By 1899, colonial cruelty was put on public display. Indigenous Selknam people were forcibly taken from Tierra del Fuego to Europe, where they were exhibited in so-called human zoos. These scenes reveal a dark chapter of racism and exploitation, when entire cultures were dehumanized for entertainment. In 1912, a massive ship still floated on the Atlantic, damaged but visible in the darkness. Shortly after this final photograph, the Titanic slipped beneath the icy water. What followed became one of the deadliest maritime disasters in history, forever changing how the world viewed technology and human arrogance. Beauty standards can shape the human body itself. Among the Mangbetu people of Central Africa, elongated heads were considered symbols of intelligence and elegance. Beginning in infancy, heads were gently wrapped to achieve this form, reflecting cultural identity rather than harm. In 1915, cruelty took a far more horrific form. During the Armenian genocide, starvation was used as a weapon. Images from this period show officials taunting starving civilians with food, capturing the calculated dehumanization that defined one of history's darkest genocides. A rooftop in Barcelona, 1936. A 17-year-old girl stands confidently with a rifle slung over her shoulder. Marina Ginesta became the face of youthful resistance during the Spanish Civil War, symbolizing idealism, defiance, and a generation pulled into ideological conflict. Deep beneath collapsed ruins in Iran, archaeologists uncovered a moment frozen for nearly 2,800 years. Two skeletons lay face to face, appearing to share a final kiss. The Hassanlu lovers remind us that even in catastrophe, human connection endures. In 1941, Singapore dimly lit rooms told another story of empire and neglect. Opium dens, once regulated and taxed, revealed widespread addiction and suffering under colonial rule, exposing the social costs hidden behind economic profit. In 1920, a small boy stood before rows of chessboards, calmly defeating experienced adult masters one by one. Samuel Reshevsky, only 8 years old, amazed the world, proving that genius can appear long before adulthood. Innovation often came with reckless bravery. In 1923, to prove a bulletproof vest worked, one man fired a gun at another wearing the armor. Early technology testing relied less on safety protocols and more on raw confidence. A group photograph from 1910 shows 9 European kings standing together in peace. Just 4 years later, many of them would be enemies in World War I. The image stands as a chilling reminder of how quickly diplomacy can collapse into destruction. After World War II, silence followed the chaos. In 1945, General George S. Patton's dog lay quietly beside his belongings after his death. The photo speaks not of battle, but of loyalty, grief, and the personal cost of war. In 1955, Albert Einstein's desk was photographed exactly as he left it. Papers, notes, and unfinished ideas covered the surface, revealing a mind that never stopped questioning. Even in death, his curiosity seemed alive. And in 1911, hidden high in the Andes, stone structures emerged from thick vegetation. The first photograph of Machu Picchu showed an ancient Inca city seemingly untouched by time, reintroducing the modern world to a civilization long forgotten.
150 years ago, no smartphones, no electricity, no highways, only horse carriages, steam trains, dusty streets, and people struggling to survive in a rapidly changing world. So sit back and travel with us into the past as we uncover rare photographs that reveal what America truly looked like over 100 years ago. This incredible photograph captures a massive group of American laborers during the late 1800s, standing proudly beside heavy industrial machinery. These were the men who helped build the backbone of modern America: railroads, mines, and factories. Notice the rough clothing, wide-brim hats, and exhausted faces. Life back then was brutally hard, but these workers carried the nation into the industrial age. This powerful image shows railroad workers laying tracks across the harsh American desert during the late 1800s. At the time, railroads were transforming the United States, connecting distant towns and fueling economic growth. Workers endured extreme heat, dangerous conditions, and exhausting labor. These tracks helped turn America into an industrial superpower and open the West to rapid expansion. This remarkable photo captures a historic railroad gathering in 1800s America, likely during the expansion of the Transcontinental Railway. Hundreds of workers, businessmen, and local citizens crowded around a steam locomotive to witness history in the making. Railroads changed everything. They connected the country, boosted trade, and transformed isolated frontier lands into growing American towns. This haunting photograph takes us deep inside an American mine during the late 1800s. Covered in dust and surrounded by dangerous machinery, these miners worked long hours underground for very little pay. Mining was one of the deadliest jobs in America at the time. Every shift meant risking collapse, explosions, and toxic air just to survive and provide for their families. This fascinating photograph shows one of America's earliest steam-powered trains from the 1800s. Before automobiles and airplanes, rail travel was revolutionary. Wealthy passengers rode in open carriages while thick smoke poured from the engine across the countryside. These primitive locomotives changed transportation forever, shrinking distances and helping America expand faster than ever before. This breathtaking image captures a steam locomotive crossing a snowy railroad bridge somewhere in the American West during the late 1800s. Surrounded by rugged mountains and freezing wilderness, railroad workers pushed through brutal winters to expand the nation's rail network. These railroads brought settlers, trade, and industry into some of the most remote parts of America. This touching portrait shows two African-American children from the late 1800s, a time when racial segregation and discrimination were deeply rooted in American society. Their serious expressions reflect the hardships many Black families faced after slavery ended. Despite poverty and inequality, families like theirs fought to build better lives during one of America's most difficult eras. This emotional photograph shows a group of immigrant families arriving in America during the early 1900s, likely through a major entry point such as Ellis Island. Many came from Europe searching for safety, jobs, and a better future. Notice the tired faces, worn clothing, and children standing close to their mothers, symbols of hope mixed with uncertainty in a new land. This striking photograph shows rows of factory workers inside an enormous American industrial plant during the early 1900s. The long hours, crowded conditions, and exhausting labor defined factory life during America's industrial boom. Many workers were immigrants or poor laborers who sacrificed their health and freedom to keep the nation's factories running day and night. This deeply emotional photograph captures an immigrant mother holding her child shortly after arriving in America during the early 1900s. Sitting behind a metal barrier, she appears exhausted yet hopeful. Millions of immigrants pass through crowded processing centers like Ellis Island, carrying little more than dreams of safety, opportunity, and a better future for their children. This rare photograph shows a group of American industrial workers posing outside a factory in the late 1800s. Their worn clothes, tired expressions, and rough hands reveal the harsh reality of working-class life during America's industrial rise. Most laborers worked exhausting shifts for low wages, yet their hard work helped build the factories, railroads, and cities of modern America. This beautiful family portrait from 1800s, America offers a rare glimpse into upper-class life during the Victorian era. Notice the formal clothing, carefully styled hair, and serious expressions. Photography was expensive, so portraits like this were treasured family memories. At the time, families often sat perfectly still for long exposures, making every photograph feel timeless and deeply personal. This powerful portrait captures an elderly Native American woman holding a young child, likely her grandchild, in the early 1900s. The deep wrinkles on her face tell stories of survival, hardship, and cultural change. During this era, Native American communities were being pushed from their lands, yet families continued preserving traditions, identity, and strength across generations. This eerie photograph shows a quiet American frontier town during the late 1800s. Wooden buildings, dusty streets, and horse-drawn carriages were common sights across the Wild West. Places like this were often isolated and lawless, where saloons, churches, and general stores stood side by side. It was a harsh but defining chapter in America's expansion westward. This fascinating image takes us inside a crowded saloon or gathering hall, somewhere in the American West during the late 1800s. Men in cowboy hats sit around tables, while others relax near the stove, escaping the harsh frontier life outside. Places like this were the social heart of Western towns, where travelers, gamblers, workers, and outlaws all crossed paths. This rare photograph shows an American cavalry soldier standing beside his horse during the late 1800s, likely somewhere at the Western frontier. Horses were essential for travel, military patrols, and survival across the rugged landscape. The soldier's worn uniform and confident expression reflect the harsh realities of frontier life, where long journeys and dangerous conditions were part of everyday existence. This detailed street scene shows an American city during the mid to late 1800s, long before automobiles or skyscrapers dominated the landscape. Horse-drawn carriages moved through crowded dirt roads, while people in formal clothing walked between government buildings, shops, and markets. Cities like this were rapidly growing as America expanded economically, politically, and socially during the Industrial Age. These two rare photographs capture everyday life in 1800s America from very different worlds. On the left, women stand proudly outside a peaceful family home, dressed in formal Victorian clothing. On the right, rugged men gather outside a remote mountain lodge deep in the wilderness. Together, these images reveal the contrast between settled family life and the rough frontier spirit that shaped early America. This incredible photograph shows a covered wagon traveling through an American town during the westward expansion of the 1800s. Pulled by horses and even a powerful ox, wagons like these carried families, supplies, and dreams across dangerous frontier lands. Before railroads reached every region, covered wagons were symbols of survival, migration, and America's relentless push toward the West. This rare Civil War-era photograph shows military medics carrying a wounded soldier across a battlefield stretcher in the late 1800s. The Red Cross armbands identify them as medical personnel risking their lives to save injured troops. During America's wars, battlefield medicine was primitive and dangerous, and thousands of soldiers died not only from combat, but from infection and untreated wounds. This powerful photograph captures a pioneer family during America's westward expansion in the 1800s. Standing beside a covered wagon pulled by horses, they appear to be traveling across the open frontier in search of land, opportunity, and a new life. Families like these endured extreme weather, hunger, disease, and isolation while helping settle the American West. This striking portrait shows a rough group of young American frontiersmen from the mid-1800s, likely miners, cowboys, or Western laborers. Their rugged clothing, intense expressions, and weathered appearance reflect the unforgiving life of the American frontier. In those days, survival demanded toughness, and groups like this helped shape the wild, dangerous, and rapidly expanding American West. This touching photograph captures a young American boy quietly reading a comic book sometime in the early to mid-1900s. Unlike the harsh frontier images of earlier generations, this scene reflects a changing America where childhood slowly became more peaceful and comfortable. His curious expression and relaxed surroundings reveal how books, comics, and storytelling became an important part of growing up in modern American life. This heartbreaking photograph shows young children working inside an American factory during the early 1900s. Instead of attending school or playing outside, many poor children were forced to work long hours around dangerous industrial machines for very little money. Child labor was common during America's industrial boom, exposing children to exhaustion, injuries, and harsh working conditions at a very young age. This fascinating photograph shows an American classroom from the early 1900s, a time when education was becoming more organized and widespread across the country. Students sit quietly at wooden desks while the teacher lectures beside maps and a chalkboard. Unlike today's digital classrooms, learning back then relied heavily on discipline, memorization, handwritten notes, and strict classroom rules. This dramatic photograph shows utility workers high above the ground repairing electrical lines during the early 1900s. As electricity spread across America, men like these risked their lives climbing dangerous poles with very limited safety equipment. Their work helped power homes, businesses, and entire cities, bringing America into the modern electrical age for the very first time. This peaceful rural scene captures everyday farm life in America before modern machinery transformed the countryside. Horses were essential for transportation, farming, and survival, while families worked together from sunrise to sunset. Chickens wandered freely through the yard, and nearly everything people needed came from their own land. It was a slower, harder, but deeply connected way of life. This fascinating photo captures a rare moment where old and new worlds existed side by side. The horse-drawn carriage represents the traditional way people traveled for centuries, while the automobile in the background hints at the arrival of a modern age. During the early 1900s, scenes like this were common in American cities as society slowly transitioned from horses to motor vehicles. It was a time of massive technological change, yet many people still relied on horses for daily transportation. This crowded street scene feels like stepping directly into the heart of a busy 19th or early 20th century city. The narrow road is packed with market stalls, horse-drawn wagons, merchants, and hundreds of people moving through the streets. Before modern traffic and skyscrapers took over, cities were filled with open-air markets like this, where people bought food, clothing, and daily necessities face-to-face. Every corner of the image reflects the energy, chaos, and human connection of urban life during that era. This remarkable photograph shows a bustling public market from the late 1800s or early 1900s, likely serving as the center of daily life in the city. Long before supermarkets existed, people came to crowded marketplaces like this to buy fresh vegetables, meat, and household goods. Horse carts moved through the streets while vendors called out to customers under large covered stalls. The scene perfectly captures the noise, movement, and energy of urban life during a time when markets were the heartbeat of every growing American city. This incredible photograph captures the overwhelming energy of a crowded city street during the early 1900s. The road is packed with pedestrians, street vendors, horse-drawn wagons, and small market stalls stretching far into the distance. At that time, cities were growing rapidly due to immigration and industrialization, turning streets like these into busy centers of trade and daily survival. Every person in the image seems to be moving with purpose, creating a powerful glimpse into the fast-paced urban life of the past. This striking photograph captures a fascinating transition period in urban transportation. In the center, a horse-drawn streetcar moves along metal tracks, while beside it, an electric tram represents the future of city travel. During the late 1800s and early 1900s, many American cities briefly used both systems at the same time before electricity completely replaced horsepower transit. The foggy streets, crowded sidewalks, and towering buildings make this image feel like a living snapshot of a rapidly modernizing world. This peaceful yet isolated landscape shows the rugged countryside of early America, long before highways, cities, and modern development transformed the land. Scattered rocks, dirt paths, and dense forests dominate the scene, while a small horse-drawn wagon in the distance reminds us how difficult travel once was. In those days, journeys across rural areas could take days or even weeks. Photographs like this reveal the raw, untamed beauty that many early settlers and travelers experienced during the expansion of the American frontier. This powerful collection of portraits likely shows soldiers from the American Civil War era, a conflict that forever changed the history of the United States. Each face tells a different story: young men leaving home, facing fear, hardship, and the uncertainty of war. Their uniforms, weapons, and serious expressions reflect the brutal reality of 19th century battlefields, where thousands fought for causes they deeply believed in. These photographs are more than historical images. They are haunting reminders of the human cost of war and the lives forever shaped by it. This haunting portrait likely shows a frontier laborer or miner from the 1800s, holding the basic tools that built much of early America by hand. The shovel and pickaxe were symbols of hard physical work during an era of mining booms, railroad expansion, and Western settlement. His worn clothing, rough hat, and exhausted expression reflect the brutal conditions many workers endured while searching for survival and opportunity. Photographs like this remind us that behind America's rapid growth were ordinary laborers, whose difficult lives often went undocumented and forgotten. This powerful image appears to show a group of laborers or miners working at a rocky excavation site during the late 1800s or early 1900s. Surrounded by wooden beams, loose stone, and rough terrain, these men likely spent long, exhausting days digging, hauling, and building by hand with almost no modern machinery. Their hats, suspenders, and rugged clothing reflect the harsh working-class life of that era. Scenes like this capture the backbone of industrial expansion, ordinary workers whose dangerous labor helped build mines, railroads, roads, and growing American towns during a time of rapid change. This rare old photograph captures a quiet rural settlement from the late 1800s or early 1900s. The muddy dirt road, simple farmhouse buildings, wooden fences, and horse standing beside the man reveal how deeply people depended on farming and animals for daily life. The group posing for the camera likely represents a local family or small farming community. Their formal clothing suggests that having a photograph taken was still a special occasion during that era. Images like this offer a fascinating glimpse into early countryside life before paved roads, electricity, and modern transportation transformed rural America forever. This fascinating harbor photograph captures a busy coastal city during the late 1800s or early 1900s, when sea trade was the lifeline of major economies. Large steamships and sailing vessels filled the waterfront, transporting goods, immigrants, and raw materials across the world. The crowded rooftops, warehouses, and docks below reveal how rapidly industrial cities were expanding during this era. Smoke rising in the distance hints at factories and coal-powered transportation that defined the age. Before airplanes and highways dominated travel, ports like this were the true gateways connecting nations, commerce, and millions of people seeking new opportunities. This stunning aerial-style photograph shows a small American town during the late 1800s or early 1900s, surrounded by vast open farmland and empty countryside. The simple wooden homes, dirt crossroads, barns, and neatly divided fields reveal how closely communities depended on agriculture during this period. Unlike today's crowded cities, towns like this were quiet, slow-paced, and tightly connected, where nearly everyone knew each other. From this high viewpoint, you can clearly see the early stages of organized urban planning as settlements slowly expanded across rural America. Photos like this preserve the peaceful simplicity of life before highways, skyscrapers, and modern industry reshaped the landscape forever. This atmospheric old photograph captures a quiet residential street from the late 1800s or early 1900s. The horse-drawn carriage, wide empty road, and elegant wooden houses with porches reflect a time before automobiles transformed city life. Bare trees line the street, giving the scene a calm, almost frozen feeling, while people standing on porches and sidewalks reveal the slower pace of everyday life during that era. The architecture suggests a growing middle-class neighborhood where families live close to small local businesses and town centers. Images like this beautifully preserve the peaceful charm of early urban America before modern traffic, skyscrapers, and electric city lights changed everything. This breathtaking photograph captures the energy and transformation of a major American city during the early 1900s. Crowded sidewalks, electric streetcars, horse-drawn carriages, and towering commercial buildings reveal a world caught between the old and modern age. The ornate architecture and busy storefronts show how rapidly urban centers were growing during the industrial boom. Smoke rising from rooftops and factories reflects the non-stop activity that powered these cities day and night. Before automobiles fully dominated the streets, scenes like this represented the heartbeat of urban America, crowded, noisy, ambitious, and constantly expanding toward the future. This remarkable street photograph shows the chaos and energy of a thriving American city in the late 1800s. The cobblestone roads are packed with horse-drawn carriages, delivery wagons, street vendors, and crowds of pedestrians moving through busy commercial streets. Tall, narrow buildings with awnings and storefronts line both sides, reflecting the rapid growth of trade and urban business during the industrial era. Long before traffic lights and automobiles controlled city movement, streets like these depended entirely on horses and human coordination. The image perfectly captures a time when American cities were transforming into bustling economic centers filled with noise, commerce, and non-stop activity. This beautifully preserved photograph highlights the importance of horses in everyday transportation during the late 1800s and early 1900s. The strong, well-groomed horse stands proudly attached to a lightweight carriage outside an elegant wooden home, showing how horse-drawn travel was once a symbol of both practicality and social status. Before automobiles became common, families relied on horses for nearly everything traveling, delivering goods, and daily transportation through towns and countryside alike. The detailed harness and carriage design also reflect the craftsmanship of that era, when maintaining a healthy horse was just as important as owning a vehicle today. This striking harbor photograph captures the powerful age of steamships, when rivers and ports were the lifeline of trade and travel. Large paddle steamers and cargo boats crowd the waterfront, their tall smokestacks pouring dark smoke into the sky as workers load supplies and passengers prepare for long journeys. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, steam-powered ships transformed transportation by connecting distant cities much faster than traditional sailing vessels. The busy dockside scene also reveals how important waterways were before highways and airplanes dominated travel. Every ship here carried not only goods and people, but also the promise of industrial growth in a rapidly changing world. This fascinating image shows how horse-drawn carriages survived even in the modern automobile age. While cars and paved roads became common in cities, many people still used elegant carriages for tourism, ceremonies, and short-distance travel. The driver, dressed in traditional formal clothing, guides the horse through a busy urban street, creating a striking contrast between old-world transportation and modern city life. These carriages were once symbols of wealth and status before automobiles replaced them in everyday transportation. Today, scenes like this remind us of a slower, more graceful era when horses were an essential part of daily life and city culture. This remarkable photograph captures one of the early steam locomotives that transformed travel and industry forever. Before railways, long-distance journeys took days or even weeks by horse carriage. But steam trains dramatically reduced travel time and connected distant cities like never before. The massive iron engine, powered by coal and steam, symbolized the beginning of the Industrial Revolution's transportation boom. Passengers riding in these elegant rail cars experienced a new level of speed, comfort, and opportunity. For many people of that era, seeing a steam locomotive for the first time felt almost magical, a machine powerful enough to pull entire cities closer together and reshape the modern world. This powerful photograph captures gold prospectors searching riverbeds during the famous gold rush era. Armed with simple tools like pans, shovels, and wooden sluices, thousands of miners traveled into remote mountains, hoping to discover gold and change their lives forever. The work was exhausting, and dangerous men spent long hours standing in cold rivers, washing dirt and gravel to find tiny pieces of precious metal. While a few became wealthy, most miners faced hardship, poverty, and disappointment. Images like this reveal the harsh reality behind the dream of instant riches and show how the gold rush helped shape the expansion and development of the American West. This touching photograph shows a pioneer family standing outside their small log cabin on the American frontier. Families like these traveled into remote wilderness areas during the 1800s, building homes entirely by hand from logs, mud, and natural materials. Life on the frontier was extremely difficult. People faced harsh weather, isolation, disease, and limited food supplies. Every family member, including children, worked daily to survive by farming, cooking, sewing, and caring for animals. Despite the hardships, these settlers helped expand towns and communities across the American West. Images like this give us a rare glimpse into the courage, resilience, and simple lifestyle of early pioneer families. This fascinating photograph shows a busy, old-fashioned barbershop from the early 1900s, a time when barbershops were important social gathering places for men. Skilled barbers dressed in white uniforms carefully shaved customers with straight razors and trimmed hair by hand, long before electric clippers became common. Large mirrors, wooden barber chairs, and shelves filled with grooming products gave these shops a classy and elegant atmosphere. Men often visited not only for haircuts, but also to relax, talk about politics, business, and local news. Images like this reveal how everyday life once revolved around small community spaces where people connect direct connection to the rapidly changing modern world. This powerful photograph shows a group of immigrants, including many children, arriving in America during the early 1900s. Their clothing, expressions, and worn belongings tell a story of hope and uncertainty. For millions, America represented a fresh start, but the journey often meant leaving behind everything they had ever known. Before trucks dominated the roads, horse-drawn wagons carried goods through America's cities. In this snowy scene, a heavily loaded wagon battles freezing conditions and muddy streets. Photos like this reveal how challenging daily life could be before modern transportation, especially during harsh winters in rapidly growing urban centers. This haunting image captures a young girl working inside a textile mill, a common sight in early 20th century America. Many children spent long hours operating dangerous machinery instead of attending school. Her tired expression serves as a reminder of the difficult conditions that eventually sparked major labor reforms across the country. High above the East River, workers carefully balance on cables during the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge. Without modern safety equipment, these men risk their lives every day. Their courage helped create one of America's most iconic landmarks and symbolize the nation's rapid industrial growth during the 19th century. This striking photograph shows young children working inside a factory, performing jobs that would be unthinkable today. Many families depended on every member to earn income, including their children. Images like this shocked the public and played a major role in pushing for stronger child labor laws. This busy city street captures America during a time of transition. Horse-drawn vehicles share the road with electric streetcars, while pedestrians fill the sidewalks. The photograph reveals a fascinating moment when old-fashioned transportation and modern technology existed side by side in rapidly expanding American cities. Crowds of immigrants step off a ship carrying luggage, dreams, and hopes for a better future. Many arrived with little money but enormous determination. This scene reflects one of the largest migration waves in American history, when millions traveled across oceans seeking opportunity, freedom, and a new beginning. Floodwaters have completely transformed this neighborhood into a temporary waterway. Residents navigate the streets by boat, while homes sit surrounded by water. Before advanced flood control systems, disasters like this regularly disrupted American communities, forcing families to adapt quickly to nature's overwhelming power. This photograph offers a rare glimpse inside an early industrial facility. Workers stand beside large equipment used in manufacturing processes that powered America's economic growth. Factories like these helped transform the nation into an industrial powerhouse, but they often required long hours and physically demanding labor. A flooded Main Street stretches into the distance as a horse-drawn wagon carefully moves through deep water. Natural disasters like this could bring entire towns to a standstill. The image highlights both the vulnerability and resilience of early American communities facing extreme weather and rising floodwaters. This breathtaking image shows an entire American community swallowed by floodwaters. Homes, roads, and businesses have nearly disappeared beneath the rising water. Before modern warning systems and flood defenses, disasters like this could devastate towns overnight, leaving families stranded and forcing communities to rebuild from the ground up. A lone man sits on a damaged railroad track as powerful floodwaters sweep across the landscape. The destroyed railway highlights how vulnerable America's transportation network once was. In the early 20th century, floods could isolate entire regions, disrupting commerce, communication, and daily life for thousands of people. This illustration captures workers constructing a massive underground tunnel during America's industrial expansion. Armed with basic tools and incredible determination, these laborers helped build the infrastructure that transformed cities. Dangerous working conditions were common, and many projects required extraordinary courage beneath the streets of a growing nation. This fascinating photograph appears to show officials and workers inspecting industrial equipment during the Prohibition era. Across America, authorities frequently raided facilities suspected of producing illegal alcohol. The image reflects a unique chapter in American history when the government attempted to ban alcohol, sparking widespread resistance and underground operations. Inside this elegant gathering, men and women enjoyed drinks during the roaring 1920s. Whether in a legal establishment or a hidden speakeasy, scenes like this symbolize an era of jazz, prosperity, and social change. The decade became famous for its lively nightlife and rebellious spirit. Perched high above the water, workers construct what would become one of America's most recognizable engineering achievements, the Golden Gate Bridge. Without modern safety standards, these men faced incredible risks every day. Their skill and bravery helped create a structure that still stands as a symbol of innovation. This remarkable image captures the intense atmosphere inside NASA's mission control during the space age. Engineers and specialists monitored every detail as America pushed the boundaries of exploration. Rooms like this became the nerve center of historic missions that transformed humanity's understanding of what was possible. The Golden Gate Bridge stands proudly as automobiles cross one of the greatest engineering marvels of the 20th century. When it opened, the bridge connected communities and transformed transportation throughout the region. Its elegant design and massive scale quickly made it one of America's most celebrated landmarks. Dressed in bulky spacesuits, astronauts prepare for a mission that could make history. During the space race, every launch represented years of preparation, scientific innovation, and national ambition. These explorers carried not only advanced technology, but also the hopes of millions watching around the world. This powerful photograph reveals the crowded living conditions faced by many immigrant families in America's growing cities. Multiple generations often shared a small apartment, struggling to make ends meet while pursuing a better future. Despite the hardships, these communities helped shape the cultural and economic foundation of modern America. This historic photograph shows a mule pulling heavy carts loaded with materials along industrial rail tracks. Before modern machinery became widespread, animals played a crucial role in America's mines, lumber camps, and factories. Their strength helped power industries that fueled the nation's rapid growth. Deep underground, miners and their mule navigate a narrow coal mine tunnel illuminated only by headlamps and open flames. These animals spent much of their lives below ground, hauling coal through dangerous conditions. The image highlights the harsh realities faced by both workers and animals during America's industrial era. Covered in coal dust after a long shift, this group of miners poses for a rare photograph inside the mine. Mining was one of the most dangerous occupations of the time, with workers facing cave-ins, explosions, and toxic air. Their labor helped provide the energy that powered American factories, railroads, and cities. Two female shipyard workers smile as they leave a construction site wearing protective welding helmets. During World War II, millions of American women entered industrial jobs traditionally held by men. Their contributions became essential to the war effort and helped reshape the role of women in the workforce. This fascinating scene captures an early film crew operating large cameras from an elevated platform. In the early days of Hollywood and newsreels, filmmaking required bulky equipment and skilled technicians. Images like this reveal how motion pictures evolved into one of America's most influential industries. Two women carefully assemble products on a factory production line. During the Second World War, factories across the country relied heavily on female workers to meet wartime demand. Their precision and dedication helped keep American industry running at full capacity. Under a sign reading "Every minute counts," factory workers focus on their tasks during wartime production. Efficiency was critical as American factories produced equipment, vehicles, and supplies for military operations. The image reflects the intense pace of industrial manufacturing during the war years. High above New York City, a construction worker balances on a steel framework with the skyline stretching endlessly behind him. Such workers helped create the skyscrapers that transformed Manhattan into one of the world's most recognizable urban landscapes. The job demanded extraordinary courage and skill. This image shows a woman participating in an early broadcasting or film production setup. Large lights and oversized cameras were common in the early 20th century when radio, cinema, and television were beginning to revolutionize communication and entertainment across America. A family stands beside their automobile on a lonely highway during the Great Depression era. For many Americans, economic hardship forced long journeys in search of work and opportunity. This powerful photograph reflects both the struggles and resilience of ordinary families during one of the nation's most difficult periods. This rare family portrait shows Native Americans dressed in traditional clothing and ceremonial regalia. Such photographs provide an important glimpse into indigenous cultures at a time when many Native communities face pressure to abandon their customs. Today, these images serve as valuable historical records of heritage, identity, and resilience. A massive crowd forms a long line around a relief station during the Great Depression. As unemployment soared across America in the 1930s, thousands relied on food assistance and charitable organizations to survive. The photograph captures the economic hardship that affected millions of families nationwide. This historic image appears to show two men with horses in a rural frontier setting. Horses were essential for transportation, ranching, and daily work across much of America before automobiles became common. The photograph reflects the rugged lifestyle of the American West. Men stand in a long line waiting for food or aid during the Great Depression. Many hardworking Americans suddenly found themselves unemployed after the economic crash of 1929. Scenes like this became symbols of one of the most difficult periods in U.S. history. This portrait features a Native American family wearing traditional clothing and jewelry. Family photographs such as this preserved cultural traditions and documented indigenous life during a period of tremendous social change. The image reflects pride, family bonds, and cultural continuity. Workers gather inside a large industrial workshop filled with construction materials and equipment. Factories and workshops like this played a major role in America's rapid industrial growth during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. They helped transform the nation into an economic powerhouse. A wealthy family gathers inside an elegant home for what appears to be a holiday or special occasion. Early family photographs offer a fascinating look at domestic life, fashion, and social customs from another era. Such images preserve moments that would otherwise be lost to history. A group of uniformed police officers stands at attention inside a government building. Formal inspections and roll calls were common practices in police departments of the early 20th century. The image highlights the discipline and organization of law enforcement during that period. This mugshot-style photograph records a prisoner from the early 20th century. Historical booking photos provide valuable insight into law enforcement practices and criminal justice systems of the time. They also offer a unique glimpse into the lives of ordinary people whose stories are often forgotten. A group of travelers carefully makes its way down a steep mountain trail. Before modern roads and vehicles reached remote regions, horseback travel was often the safest and most reliable way to navigate difficult terrain. The photograph captures the adventurous spirit of exploration in early America. This photograph appears to show prisoners standing along a walkway inside a large prison complex. Historic prisons were often designed with strict security and regimented daily routines. Images like this provide a glimpse into the correctional systems of 19th century America. A bustling mining town spreads across a rocky landscape during America's mining boom era. Gold and silver discoveries transformed remote settlements into thriving communities almost overnight. Many of these towns later declined once the mines were exhausted. This outdoor gathering captures people enjoying a picnic or social event in the early 20th century. Community gatherings were an important part of social life, bringing families and neighbors together for food, conversation, and entertainment. A busy American main street is lined with shops, automobiles, and pedestrians. The image reflects the growth of small-town commerce during the early automobile age, when local businesses served as the heart of community life. Crowds fill the streets as giant character balloons float above a festive parade. Public celebrations like this became popular attractions that brought together thousands of spectators. The photograph captures the excitement and energy of a major city event. Workers assemble machinery on a factory production line. Mass production techniques revolutionized manufacturing in the 20th century, allowing goods to be produced faster and at lower cost. Factories like this helped fuel America's industrial expansion. This colorized view of a city street offers a rare look at urban America before modern traffic and skyscrapers dominated the landscape. Horse-drawn wagons, streetcars, and pedestrians shared the roads, creating a very different rhythm of city life. A dramatic aerial view showcases New York City during the rise of the skyscraper era. Rapid construction transformed the skyline into one of the most recognizable cityscapes in the world, symbolizing economic growth and architectural innovation. A large crowd gathers near a steam locomotive, highlighting the importance of railroads in American history. Rail transport connected distant regions, encouraged migration, and played a crucial role in the nation's economic development. Bright neon lights illuminate a lively entertainment district at night. The glowing signs, classic automobiles, and bustling atmosphere reflect the excitement of mid-20th century American nightlife and tourism. This photograph showcases fashionable women from the 1920s, an era often called the Roaring Twenties. Shorter dresses, stylish hats, and bold fashion choices reflected changing social norms as women gained greater independence and visibility in public life. Families and children crowd a beach on a warm summer day. Seaside vacations became increasingly popular in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, as railroads made travel easier and more affordable for ordinary Americans. A steam locomotive stands on a wooden trestle bridge surrounded by forest. Railroads played a vital role in opening remote regions, transporting goods, and connecting communities across the rapidly expanding United States. Bright neon signs and classic automobiles line a busy street in mid-century America. Such entertainment districts became symbols of post-war prosperity tourism, and the growing influence of car culture. Pedestrians fill a bustling city street lined with shops and businesses. Historic urban neighborhoods like this served as centers of commerce, culture, and community life for generations of residents. Thousands of swimmers enjoy a crowded beach near a large amusement area. Public beaches provided affordable recreation and became popular gathering places during the early 20th century. A massive crowd fills a city avenue during a major public celebration or parade. Large civic events often attracted hundreds of thousands of spectators and reflected the energy and optimism of urban America. Streetcars, vintage automobiles, and towering buildings dominate this downtown scene. The image captures a period when public transportation and expanding business districts helped shape modern American cities. Teenagers sit at a classic diner counter while a waitress serves refreshments. Diners became iconic symbols of American culture, offering affordable meals and serving as popular social gathering spots. A huge anti-war demonstration fills the streets with signs and banners. Public protests like these became a defining feature of the 1960s, reflecting growing political activism and debates over national policies. This incredible photograph captures a massive crowd celebrating in the streets during the end of World War II. Millions of Americans gathered in cities across the country to mark the victory, creating one of the largest public celebrations in U.S. history. A crowded classroom filled with students offers a glimpse into early 20th century education. Large class sizes, strict discipline, and basic learning materials were common features of schools during this period. This busy city street shows a fascinating transition period when horse-drawn carriages shared the road with early automobiles. It highlights how rapidly transportation was changing in the early 1900s. Modern-day Coney Island remains one of America's most famous amusement destinations. Its iconic rides and attractions continue a tradition of entertainment that has attracted visitors for well over a century. Men gather beside a vintage automobile on a city street. Classic cars like these became symbols of mobility and prosperity, transforming everyday life throughout the first half of the 20th century. A family enjoys a simple outdoor meal beside their vehicle. During difficult economic times, many American families relied on inexpensive road trips and homemade meals as affordable ways to spend time together. Children and adults enjoy a colorful amusement park filled with rides and attractions. Community fairs and amusement parks became popular family destinations, offering entertainment for people of all ages.
This remarkable photograph captures workers balancing high above San Francisco Bay during the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge. With minimal safety equipment and hundreds of feet separating them from the water below, these men helped build one of America's most iconic landmarks, showcasing extraordinary courage, skill, and determination. This haunting image reflects the hardship of the Dust Bowl era. A family walks past a home nearly swallowed by dust and sand after years of drought devastated the Great Plains. Thousands of Americans lost their farms, forcing many to leave everything behind in search of a better future. Despite the bright lights of Times Square, this photograph reveals a darker reality. Long lines of people gather in New York City during the Great Depression, waiting for jobs, food, or assistance. It's a powerful reminder that even America's busiest streets were touched by economic hardship. Few people realized that the Statue of Liberty arrived in pieces before becoming America's most famous symbol of freedom. This rare image shows the massive statue being assembled within a framework of scaffolding. Piece by piece, workers transformed a giant collection of copper panels into a national icon. This historic moment captures the dawn of aviation. The Wright brothers' fragile flying machine lifts off the ground at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, while a witness watches nearby. What lasted only seconds would forever change transportation, connecting the world in ways previously thought impossible. This famous scene recreates the spirit of victory and celebration that swept across America after World War II. Inspired by the iconic sailor and nurse kiss, people gather in Times Square to honor a moment when millions rejoiced as one of history's deadliest conflicts finally came to an end. High above the streets of New York City, construction workers pause for lunch while sitting on a steel beam with no visible safety harnesses. The photograph symbolizes the fearless workers who helped shape America's skyline during the early 20th century. often risking their lives every day. Captured in 1954, this image became one of the most recognizable photographs in American pop culture. As air from a subway grate lifts Marilyn Monroe's white dress, photographers and onlookers watch in amazement. The moment transformed a simple publicity stunt into a timeless Hollywood legend. Before becoming the first human to walk on the moon, Neil Armstrong was photographed carrying documents near a NASA facility. This ordinary-looking moment hides an extraordinary future. Within a short time, Armstrong would lead one of humanity's greatest achievements and make history on the lunar surface. Crowds gather near the Lincoln Memorial to commemorate the 40th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech. The event honored a defining moment in the civil rights movement and reminded Americans of the ongoing pursuit of equality, justice, and opportunity for all. This breathtaking aerial view captures one of the most important gatherings in American history. More than 250,000 people filled the National Mall in Washington, D.C. during the March on Washington. It was here that Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his legendary "I Have a Dream" speech, inspiring generations. This rare photograph shows workers suspended on ropes while carving the face of a president into Mount Rushmore. Using dynamite, drills, and hand tools, crews transformed a granite mountain into one of America's most recognizable monuments. The project took years of effort, precision, and incredible courage. This powerful image shows unemployed men standing patiently in a breadline during the Great Depression. With banks failing and jobs disappearing, millions of Americans struggled to survive. For many families, soup kitchens and food lines became a daily reality, symbolizing one of the nation's toughest economic crises. Standing beside a lonely road, this family represents thousands of Americans displaced by the Dust Bowl of the 1930s. Severe drought and dust storms destroyed farms across the Great Plains. Forced to leave their homes behind, many families traveled west hoping to find work and a fresh start. Hidden inside the mountain scaffolding, workers carefully carved massive sections of granite during the construction of Mount Rushmore. The project required years of blasting, drilling, and detailed craftsmanship. This photograph reveals the enormous scale of the undertaking and the people whose labor made the monument possible. This fascinating street scene offers a glimpse into urban America at the turn of the 20th century. Horse-drawn carriages share crowded streets with pedestrians dressed in formal clothing. Long before traffic lights and modern vehicles dominated cities, this was the rhythm of everyday life in America. This striking portrait preserves the image of a Native American leader during a time of dramatic change across the American West. His traditional clothing and ceremonial headdress reflect cultural heritage passed down through generations. Photographs like this provide an important visual record of indigenous history and resilience. Millions of immigrants passed through halls like this after arriving in the United States. Carrying hopes for freedom, opportunity, and a better life, newcomers underwent inspections before entering the country. Ellis Island became a symbol of the American dream and the diverse backgrounds that helped shape the nation. This beautiful photograph captures the rugged beauty of the American Southwest. A winding highway cuts through dramatic red rock landscapes beneath a clear blue sky. Scenes like this symbolize freedom, exploration, and the open road culture that has long been woven into America's national identity. This collection of portraits spans different generations of Native Americans, highlighting the diversity and continuity of indigenous cultures in North America. Though styles and eras changed over time, these images reflect enduring traditions, resilience, and identities that have survived despite centuries of immense challenges and transformation. This powerful photograph captures immigrants arriving in the United States during the early 20th century. Carrying suitcases, documents, and hopes for a better future, these men and women stepped into an unfamiliar land. For millions, moments like this marked the beginning of a new life and the pursuit of the American dream. This powerful image captures a struggling American family living in extreme poverty. The worn-out shelter, bare feet, and tired expressions reveal the harsh reality many families faced during the Great Depression. Despite the hardship, the family stands together, showing resilience, determination, and the strength that helped countless Americans survive difficult times. This crowded city street offers a glimpse into America's booming industrial age. Streetcars, horse-drawn wagons, and busy workers fill every corner, creating a scene of constant motion. Before modern traffic lights and highways, cities thrived on organized chaos, reflecting the rapid growth that transformed the United States. These hard-working laborers helped build the foundations of modern America. Standing proudly with their heavy equipment, they represent the thousands of workers who carved tunnels, mined resources, and constructed vital infrastructure. Their difficult jobs demanded strength, courage, and endurance, often under dangerous and exhausting conditions. This historic illustration shows workers constructing one of America's greatest engineering achievements, the Brooklyn Bridge. Suspended high above the water, these men risked their lives daily to connect communities and transform transportation. Their efforts created a landmark that remains a symbol of American innovation and determination. This waterfront scene showcases a grand resort complex during America's golden age of leisure and luxury. Elegant architecture, calm waters, and arriving visitors reflect a period when wealthy travelers sought relaxation in impressive destinations. It's a reminder of how tourism helped shape local economies and communities. This pioneer family represents the spirit of westward expansion. Traveling by horse-drawn wagon across vast open landscapes, they left familiar lives behind in search of new opportunities. The journey was long and uncertain, but families like this helped settle the American frontier and shape the nation's future. These riders moving across a dusty landscape capture the rugged spirit of the American West. Horses were once essential for travel, communication, and daily life. Scenes like this remind us of a time before automobiles, when endurance, skill, and self-reliance defined life on the frontier. This illustration portrays a growing frontier town during America's westward expansion. Wooden storefronts, horse-drawn wagons, and bustling streets reveal how quickly settlements emerged across the West. What began as small outposts often developed into thriving communities, helping expand the nation across vast and untamed territories. This dramatic landscape highlights the breathtaking beauty that early explorers encountered in the American West. Towering cliffs, open water, and temporary camps demonstrate the challenges and wonder of exploring unfamiliar lands. These journeys expanded geographic knowledge and inspired future generations to appreciate America's natural treasures. This heartbreaking photograph shows children living in difficult conditions during a challenging period of American history. Their worn clothing and solemn expressions reveal the hardships faced by many families. Yet even in adversity, these children symbolize resilience, hope, and the enduring strength of communities struggling to survive. This haunting image shows the aftermath of a devastating earthquake that reduced a once proud government building to rubble. Twisted steel, shattered walls, and empty streets reveal the disaster's immense power. Yet from this destruction came one of America's greatest rebuilding efforts, proving the resilience of an entire city. This quiet city street captures America during the early automobile era. Vintage cars share the road with pedestrians as urban life begins to modernize. The mix of old architecture and emerging technology reflects a nation in transition, moving rapidly toward the modern world we know today. Seen from above, this breathtaking panorama showcases a bustling American port city at the height of its growth. Ships crowd the waterfront, while an organized grid of streets stretches toward the horizon. Images like this reveal the scale of industrial expansion that powered America's economic rise. This classic Route 66 scene takes us back to the golden age of the American road trip. Neon signs, family-owned cafes, and vintage automobiles welcomed travelers crossing the country. For millions of Americans, Route 66 symbolized freedom, adventure, and the endless promise of the open road. This classroom reflects a pivotal chapter in American education and civil rights history. Students sit together, focused on learning and building brighter futures. Beyond the textbooks and lessons, schools like this became powerful symbols of progress, opportunity, and the ongoing struggle for equality across America. This vibrant city scene captures the excitement of mid-century America. Bright billboards, busy sidewalks, and classic automobiles create an atmosphere full of energy and ambition. Entertainment, commerce, and innovation all converged in places like this, turning urban centers into cultural landmarks recognized around the world. Rising high above the city below, this skyscraper under construction represents America's fascination with reaching new heights. Thousands of workers contributed to projects like this, often in challenging conditions. These towering structures transformed city skylines and became lasting symbols of engineering excellence and economic confidence. This roadside Texaco station reflects an era when highways connected communities across the nation. Travelers stopped for fuel, food, and a brief rest before continuing their journeys. Scenes like this became an essential part of American road culture, helping shape memories of family vacations and adventure. This classroom offers a glimpse into everyday American education decades ago. Rows of students sit attentively as their teacher guides the lesson. The maps, desks, and learning materials reveal how schools served as community centers, preparing young Americans for the opportunities and challenges of the future. Glowing neon signs, crowded sidewalks, and classic cars bring this iconic entertainment district to life. The energy is unmistakable. For decades, places like this represented the excitement of urban America, where theater, music, advertising, and nightlife combined to create some of the nation's most memorable experiences. This vibrant view of Times Square captures the heartbeat of New York City during the mid-20th century. Packed streets, glowing advertisements, and rows of classic cars showcase America's growing consumer culture. For many visitors, Times Square symbolized excitement, opportunity, and the non-stop energy that made New York famous worldwide. This remarkable photo captures a logging camp deep in America's vast wilderness during the early 1900s. Massive trees tower above simple worker cabins, while steam-powered machinery helped transform raw timber into the lumber that built growing towns, railroads, and cities across the United States. Before electric refrigerators existed, Americans harvested giant blocks of ice from frozen lakes every winter. In this photo, workers carefully cut and move huge chunks of ice into storage houses. These frozen blocks kept food fresh through the summer and became a vital part of everyday life. Long before smartphones and automated systems, thousands of women worked as telephone operators. Sitting at switchboards, they manually connected calls by plugging cables into circuits. Every conversation depended on their speed and accuracy, making them the invisible voices that kept America connected. This historic fire engine reminds us of a time before motorized emergency vehicles. Pulled by powerful horses, firefighters rushed through city streets to battle dangerous blazes. Steam-powered equipment and brave crews formed the first line of defense, protecting communities during America's rapid urban growth. Hidden among towering trees, this logging settlement shows the rugged lifestyle of early American lumber workers. Families and laborers lived in small wooden cabins surrounded by freshly cut timber. These remote communities played a major role in supplying the wood that fueled America's expansion. This powerful image reveals the harsh reality of coal mining in the early 20th century. Miners worked deep underground alongside horses, relying on helmet lamps for light. Dangerous conditions, long hours, and physical labor were common, yet their work powered factories, railroads, and homes nationwide. This photo captures children standing outside a traditional one-room schoolhouse. Students of different ages learn together in a single classroom, often with one teacher responsible for every subject. These schools helped educate generations of Americans, especially in small rural communities across the country. This touching photograph shows an immigrant mother holding her child while beginning a new life in America. Millions of families arrived seeking opportunity, safety, and hope. Behind every arrival was a personal story of courage, sacrifice, and determination to build a better future. These young newsboys gathered together during a time when newspapers were America's primary source of information. Many children worked long hours selling papers on busy city streets. Their earnings often helped support their families, reflecting both the opportunities and hardships of urban life. This inspiring image shows women working on an aircraft during World War II. As millions of men served overseas, women stepped into factories and industrial jobs. Their skill and dedication helped produce the planes, vehicles, and equipment that played a crucial role in America's wartime success. This striking image captures an American woman operating heavy machinery during World War II. As factories expanded production, women stepped into roles once dominated by men. Their precision, determination, and hard work helped fuel America's industrial strength and played a crucial role in the Allied victory. Imagine seeing television for the very first time. In this small-town store, people gather around a glowing screen, fascinated by a technology that would soon transform American life. Television brought news, entertainment, and major world events directly into homes, forever changing how people connected. This crowd outside an electronics store reflects the excitement surrounding television's rise in America. Families eagerly lined up to see the newest sets and innovations. During the post-war years, television became more than a gadget. It became the centerpiece of American living rooms and culture. This photo shows a driver refueling at an old-fashioned gas pump during America's automotive revolution. As cars became more affordable, road travel exploded in popularity. Gas stations like this one appeared across the nation, supporting a new era of freedom, mobility, and adventure. Here, a young woman works on an aircraft during World War II, helping build the machines that defended freedom. Known collectively as Rosie the Riveters, millions of women entered factories and shipyards. Their contributions shattered barriers and permanently changed opportunities for women in America. This image highlights the skill and focus of women assembling aircraft components during wartime. Every rivet and every panel mattered. Behind the scenes, these workers helped create the planes that carried American pilots across the globe, proving that victory depended on teamwork, both at home and abroad. This powerful photograph captures a struggling American family during the Great Depression. Despite economic hardship and uncertainty, families relied on resilience, hard work, and hope. Images like this remind us of one of the most difficult chapters in American history and the strength people showed. This bustling street scene offers a glimpse of everyday life in mid-century America. Classic cars line the roads, local businesses thrive, and bright signs attract customers. It was a time of economic growth, expanding suburbs, and optimism that shaped the modern American lifestyle. Before giant shopping centers and online stores, places like this general store served as the center of community life. Residents came here not only to shop, but also to exchange news, meet neighbors, and stay connected in an era when small-town relationships defined daily life. This emotional image shows a family traveling in search of work and a better future. During difficult economic times, countless Americans moved across the country, hoping to find opportunity. Their journey reflects the perseverance, sacrifice, and determination that have long been part of the American story. This fascinating photo takes us inside an early American general store, where neighbors gathered to shop, exchange news, and socialize. From canned goods to household supplies, these stores were the lifeblood of rural communities. In many towns, the general store was the center of everyday life. This remarkable street scene captures a thriving American town in the early 1900s. Horse-drawn carriages share the road with pedestrians as businesses line both sides of the street. Long before highways and shopping malls, Main Street was where commerce, entertainment, and community life came together. Before refrigeration became common, Americans relied on nature to keep food cold. In this winter scene, workers cut enormous blocks of ice from a frozen lake and transport them by horse-drawn sleds. It was demanding work, but these ice harvests supplied homes and businesses year-round. Long before cell phones and the internet, every long-distance call depended on operators like these. Seated before a massive switchboard, they manually connected callers across cities and states. Their speed and precision kept America connected, making them some of the most important workers of their era. This dramatic image captures a horse-drawn fire engine racing through city streets. Before modern fire trucks, Teams of powerful horses pulled steam-powered equipment to emergencies. Speed was everything, and these firefighters risked their lives protecting growing American cities from devastating fires that could destroy entire blocks. This bustling street captures the spirit of small-town America in the early 1900s. Wooden storefronts, horse-drawn carriages, and pedestrians filled the town center. Before automobiles took over, these streets were the economic and social lifeline of American communities, where business, news, and daily life all came together. This historic church stood as more than a place of worship. It was the heart of the community. Families traveled long distances to attend services, weddings, and social events. In many frontier towns, churches helped unite settlers and provided hope, stability, and a sense of belonging. This family represents the determination that helped build America's frontier. Living far from cities, they relied on farming, livestock, and hard work to survive. Every family member contributed, and daily life was filled with challenges that modern Americans can hardly imagine today. This peaceful scene shows a typical American town before modern transportation transformed the country. Horse-drawn wagons moved slowly along unpaved roads, while wooden buildings lined the streets. These towns connected rural America and played a vital role in the nation's growth. Captured in front of their modest home, this family offers a glimpse into everyday American life more than a century ago. Homes were simple, families were large, and communities were close-knit. These photographs preserve the faces of ordinary people who helped shape the nation. Standing proudly outside their home, this family symbolizes the American dream of the era, owning land and building a future. Life required constant labor, but strong family bonds and self-reliance helped many settlers create lasting communities across the country. This remarkable image captures a fascinating moment in history when horse-drawn carriages shared the road with some of America's earliest automobiles. The nation was rapidly changing, and technology was beginning to reshape transportation, business, and daily life forever. This farm was more than a home. It was a workplace, a source of food, and a family's entire livelihood. Generations often lived together, sharing responsibilities. Scenes like this were once common across America, forming the backbone of the nation's agricultural economy. This wide street reflects a town in transition. Businesses were expanding, new opportunities were emerging, and communities were growing alongside the nation itself. Every storefront, wagon, and building tells a story of ambition, hard work, and the pursuit of a better future. This rare photograph shows a settlement during America's expansion era. Dirt roads, simple buildings, and horse carts reveal a time before modern infrastructure. These communities laid the foundation for many of today's cities, helping transform a young nation into a growing economic power. This powerful image shows a one-room American schoolhouse where dozens of children gathered to learn. For many rural communities, education happened in simple wooden buildings like this. Despite limited resources, these schools helped shape generations and open doors to a brighter future. Before delivery trucks and supermarkets, local merchants brought goods directly to customers. This horse-drawn market wagon carried fresh supplies to nearby towns and farms. It was a lifeline for rural families and a reminder of how commerce worked in America's simpler days. This dusty street captures everyday life in a growing American town. Horses and wagons lined the road, while residents visited shops and businesses. Long before traffic lights and highways, these streets were the center of community life and local commerce. Take a look at this impressive downtown district from the early 1900s. Elegant buildings, busy storefronts, and horse-drawn transportation reveal a nation experiencing rapid growth. This was an era when American cities were expanding and the modern economy was beginning to take shape. These modest wooden storefronts were the backbone of frontier America. Here residents could buy tools, repair watches, purchase supplies, and conduct business. Every small shop played a crucial role in helping settlers build new communities across the expanding nation. This family proudly poses in front of their home, a symbol of hard work and perseverance. Family photographs were rare and special occasions. Images like this preserved a moment in time and reflected the hopes, struggles, and dreams of ordinary Americans. This remarkable scene shows a city balancing old and new. Horse-drawn vehicles still dominate the road, yet the urban landscape is becoming larger and more sophisticated. America was entering a new era of industry, innovation, and economic transformation. Every face in this photograph tells a story of resilience. Families like this often worked from sunrise to sunset, just to survive. Together they built homes, raised crops, and laid the foundation for countless communities that would eventually grow into thriving towns. Step inside a typical American general store from over a century ago. Shelves were packed with everything from food and clothing to household essentials. Before modern supermarkets, stores like this served as both shopping centers and gathering places for the community. These children stand proudly outside their school, representing a generation that grew up in a very different America. Many walked long distances to attend class each day. Education was becoming increasingly important, helping prepare young Americans for a rapidly changing world. This touching photograph captures a farming family during harvest season. The wagon is loaded with freshly gathered crops, and even the youngest members of the family helped with daily chores. In rural America, farming wasn't just a job, it was a way of life, passed down through generations. Step inside an American general store from over a century ago. Before shopping malls and online stores existed, families bought everything they needed in places like this. From soap and tea to household supplies, these stores were the center of commerce and community life in small-town America. The people in these photographs are gone, but their stories don't have to be. Every like and every subscribe helps keep these forgotten pieces of American history alive for future generations. So if these images touched your heart, please subscribe and join us on this journey through the past.